Cantarella has been revealed, so let's talk about her. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Okay, Cantarella just dropped out of nowhere, and oh my goodness, does she look good. Like, holy beauty. That is a gorgeous character design. I am absolutely going to try and pull for at least a copy. She looks absolutely brilliant. This drip marketing, honestly, I think in terms of the Wuthering Waves 2D art, it's the best looking out of all of them. Like, this is easily the best 2D drip marketing that has ever come out. The visual effects are crazy, the shininess and everything, and just the character herself. Goodness me, looks great. So we didn't actually know about this character whenever we first got the initial lineup of rinascita characters that we would be able to pull for during the rinascita patch cycle, so she has very much just kind of appeared. Now granted, we do know about the Phasalias, we have heard them mentioned throughout the story, so she does indeed have presence in that regard. Considering how amazing Carlotta was during the main story, I really enjoyed spending time with her. I'm really looking forward to spending time with another member of a Mafia family. I actually expect her to make quite a significant contribution to the rinascita story's continuation, since, if you think about it, 2.1 is mostly a chill patch in terms of story. We had the exploration quest down in the Everardo Bank vault, and then we had the 2.1 fishing quest. So I assume that Kuro is most likely working on the next full chapter of the rinascita storyline. I have high hopes for this character, considering that they didn't initially drip her when rinascita was first being revealed. Like, I genuinely don't know what to expect when it comes to this character. But as a Chang Li fan, I have got to say, Cantarella is just my type. I am very, very happy about this character design. She looks so good, dude. Like, this is a character design, man. I am pleased with this. In terms of what her kit might end up being like, officially speaking, we know literally nothing about this character. As in, literally nothing. So I really would not be able to tell you. You see, here's the thing. We don't have a water element in Wuthering Waves, so it's not as easy as me just going, oh yeah, she has jellyfish surrounding her, she's in a water area, so she's probably going to be a water type. There is no water type in Wuthering Waves. So my next guess would be Glacio, because blue. That is it. She is blue, she has a lot of blue surrounding her, so Glacio question mark. I don't think she's going to end up being Spectro because we already have Jinchi and Phoebe as limited 5-star Spectro characters. There's no need to add more to that particular roster when both of those characters are so strong. Fusion is a maybe considering that Brant can support Fusion, I don't see why not. Havoc is also a maybe, but I wouldn't expect it. And actually, now that I think about it, Electric is a possibility because there is some purple surrounding her. It could be a reasonable thing to think, actually, jellyfish sting, so that's not even a totally asinine assumption, but with that being said, we can only really make assumptions. I'm really not sure what our element is going to end up being. Now, allow me to go off on a bit of a nonsensical tangent here, because I have a bit of a theory here based on something that a good friend of mine told me. Cantarella is a type of poison. Like, that word is a type of poison. However, it also means singer in Italian. So there's two interesting sort of contrasting themes here. A singer and something to do with poison. Now, what does poison do? You know, obviously it deteriorates your health over time. What do jellyfish stings do? Well, unless you're getting stung by the most deadly jellyfish in the world, they also poison you over time. So my question mark theory here is that maybe she could end up having something to do with poison. It's a bit of a nonsense theory because it's literally just based on her name, so there's no real backing for this, but I actually think it's quite plausible, especially considering that poison could be linked to the new DOT mechanics in regards to negative statuses. That would actually check out quite a lot, since negative statuses in general, they're a very new concept that Wuthering Waves has brought into the game. We have Phoebe for Spectrofrazzle, that's been covered now, and it's likely that Spectrofrazzle's story isn't even over yet because Confession State Phoebe still needs a proper use case. So I think that throughout the 2.x patch cycle, wuwa is really going to double down on the whole negative statuses thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up being a character that was related to negative statuses. I don't believe that she's going to be a Spectrofrazzle character, and that's mostly because I don't think that Kuro would immediately throw Phoebe's next teammate at us right after she came out. I mean, granted, there would be that 3-week break in between with Brant, but I assume that they're going to give people a bit more time to save until they continue to complete Phoebe's team. So my assumption is that all of the other negative statuses that Kuro hasn't really utilized yet, one of them might end up being Cantarella's gimmick. She could also just end up being set up for a future rinascita unit. Who knows, that is also very much a possibility. Considering that she sort of came out of nowhere, it could even be that she ends up being a more universal support. There are so many different avenues that they could take with this character. It's very difficult to decipher what she might end up doing just based on the image alone, but that's my idea at the very least. And even consider how there's a bunch of rinascita craftable weapons that all take advantage of negative statuses, and how in recent times, Kuro has really been pushing the whole negative statuses thing. I mean, granted, we're in Phoebe's banner phase right now, so that makes sense. But I assume that this is going to be the running sort of theme throughout rinascita. Even the esteemed Montelli lady Carlotta, even though she's not a DOT user per se, she still has a debuff within her kit. Hold your imperators, Carlotta's skill debuff doesn't count as a DOT negative status. But the main point that I'm trying to highlight here is that Kuro was really trying to emphasize debuffs. So I wouldn't even be surprised if Cantarella ended up being a debuffer of some kind, a unit whose entire purpose is to apply debuffs to enemies. That doesn't mean that it has to be negative statuses. That doesn't mean that it has to be DOT specifically. That was my initial idea, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what has to happen. It could be about other unique types of debuffs that Kuro can come up with, which opens so many avenues. I'm really looking forward to seeing the creative way that they're going to handle her kit. They could also take the angle of making her a slightly more niche support, since now that the game is continuing to get older, in fact it's only a couple of months more until we're at a year of this game being out, which is kinda crazy to think about, but they could take that angle because eventually, as the game gets older, you can't have every character be an everyman character, so maybe they'll lean in more to some specific supports. For instance, they did end up doing that with Roshia. Another thing, now that I actually just mentioned Roshia, they could also lean into making 5-star units that are really good in Whimpering Wastes specifically. Now, I don't think they would ever make a 5-star that's only good in Whimpering Wastes. I feel like Kuro would always want every character to be useful across as many endgame modes as possible, but I don't think that they'd be against trying it. Because now that there's a brand new endgame mode to account for, I'm sure that people who have fairly well built up accounts that can clear the TOA with ease would want to pull for more 5-stars that can help them in Whimpering Wastes specifically, because now these characters are designed with that brand new game mode in mind, therefore helping them tune their accounts more holistically. Another fun angle that I would like to present is that she is releasing during what I'm assuming is going to be a main story patch because she's a Phasalia, that's quite a big name in the story, so I would be surprised if the Mafia family woman wouldn't end up being paired with a patch that would have some main story attached to it. Carlotta was also an important Mafia woman, and her kit ended up being amazing. She is really, really strong, totally shattered expectations. So perhaps Kuro is actually going to try and make this head of the Phasalia family a really busted, strong, OP unit. Now, granted, I don't think that they're going to make another main DPS because we've been getting a lot of damaging characters in a row. We had Carlotta, then we had a second Salt teammate in Roshia, then we had a DPS / support, but mostly DPS as of now in Phoebe, and then we have a dual carry in Brand. So it could be high time that they added another support character, but honestly I don't think that's a bad thing. I do think that some more supports to enrich the roster would be very nice. I mean, think about it. In terms of meta healers, right now we have Shorekeeper as a 3rd slot teammate and Verena as a 3rd slot teammate. TOA preferably likes 3 teams, and while I understand that you don't really need a healer for the first couple of easy floors, we still don't have a 3rd limited 5-star healer to complete the 3 teams. And like I said, it's not really like you're going to need them anyway for the lower floors of TOA where you're just going to use 2 units most of the time. But in that case, if she ended up being the next really broken 3rd slot teammate healer, then perhaps she could end up replacing Verena as the 2 main healers that people would use on an account. Shorekeeper, and then potentially Cantarella. It's so interesting to try and come up with even the foggiest idea as to what Cantarella is going to end up doing, because man, we really have nothing to go off of. Because at least with all of the other rinascita releases, right, if they were Fusion or if they were Spectro, and they were releasing around a very specific release window, you could put 2 and 2 together, look at the echo sets in the game that are already added within rinascita that have no new users and be like, okay, this unit is obviously going to work with this echo set, which can kind of help us figure out what they're going to end up doing. We just don't have anything like that for Cantarella, man. Like, I really don't think there's any echo set in the game or any, piece of lore that would hint towards what her kit is going to be. But I actually think that's really exciting. We have no clue what she's going to do. And that's what makes this interesting. There's so many different avenues that Kuro could take here. I really don't know which one they're going to choose. It's actually quite cool to me that they're releasing a character that just wasn't dripped at all. We didn't know anything about her whenever rinascita was first coming out, and she's coming out at 2.2, because usually, at least what I'm used to, is characters like this only come out after all of the main characters of that region have already come out. So I like that they're doing this. They're sprinkling in some unexpected surprises in between, if you know what I mean. Which only further leads me to believe that she's going to be a very exciting character. At least I'm excited about her, but what about you? Are you going to be pulling for her? What do you think of her character design? Do you have any thoughts or feelings on what her kit might end up looking like, or what her story may end up being? Let me know down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week every week on Saturdays, starting from 3 PM UK time. Come along so that we can play Wuthering Waves, ZZZ, and do some other fun stuff together. Hopefully this video was able to hype you up for Cantarella. This has been Juice, signing out, and my astrites are in absolute danger. There are so many characters that I want to pull for!